Hey everyone, it's time for another edition of Beaver Banter.
Beaver Sports Talk lives here.
It is the Beaver Banter podcast presented by Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There is Ian Rivers. And Ian, a very kind of quick show today, at least in terms of our Bemidji State content. We have a Christmas surprise that I think we want to bring in a little bit later in the show. But overall, Ian, it's like Christmas week. And when people, if you are first listening to this episode, as soon as it drops, it's Christmas Eve morning. So Merry Christmas. I guess your Christmas gift is instead of spending time with family, you get to just put in your AirPods and just listen to us. So I don't know if that makes it better. I don't know if that makes it worse, but Ian, how are you?
Doing great, CJ. Christmas time, Merry Christmas to everybody who's listening to this and happy holidays, But yeah, I mean, not much happening in Beaver territory right now, but there is some basketball. So we wanted to hop in and still talk about it.
It was Christmas because you had the Beavers of Minot State, who are red and white, the Beavers of Bemidji State, who are green and white. So you put it all together on Saturday and you had a Christmas Beaver bash,
Yeah, of course.
That should have been ugly sweater night, Like, I get it.
Yes.
You wanted it to be on the Friday. The dates didn't work out. But just think of the extra layer you could have threw on top of that one. But yeah, let's talk a little basketball here. Thursday night for Bemidji State men's basketball. And we talked with assistant men's basketball coach Masick last week, and go back and listen to that show. He's great. Gives a lot of great answers, a lot of great in-depth on what they want to do. And I know, Ian, one of the things that he really tried to hammer home is they want their guys to really kind of get down and dirty and get in the rebounding game. And not saying that that's the reason, but they won the rebound battle 35-31 over UMary in an 89-77 win. John Pekarich, who again, as Coach Masick pointed out, taken kind of a big step up with Tate Olson still missing time with an injury. He had 33 points in this game. And just kind of really pacing that Bemidji State offense. Austin Josephson had 16. Henry Shannon III had 12. Dominic Fairbanks had 10. The usual suspects kind of putting in, the usual production. But what a game by Pekarich, who ended up having 4 3-pointers made in the game, played 36 out of the 40 minutes, and helped pace Bemidji State in that victory.
Yeah, they shot really well on the night, 53% from the field in this game. Like you said, Pekarich was lights out. He shot over 50% himself, 12 of 21. Henry Shannon with a 12 and 12 double-double with the rebounds there as well. And like you said, they kind of just cleaned up the glass. They still had 15 turnovers as a team, but they did force 14 turnovers. So the ratio there is not terrible as long as you're forcing them on the defensive end. You can afford 1 or 2, or 15, I suppose, on the offensive end. They just played well. It was a big win over Mary because we talked about, like you said last week, this is kind of 2 big games here for the Beavers. And unfortunately, it was a split before we get to that Minot State game. Spoiler alert. But yeah, good to pick up a win at home on ugly sweater night in front of the fans there.
There was nothing ugly about the way the Beavers played on Thursday night, let me tell you.
No, and it's really good. I mean, we had John Sutherland in the past, but, Pekarich has really stepped up this year, especially like you said, in the absence of Tate Olson, and been the offensive catalyst for this team. He's been scoring left, right, and center. I mean, this guy's just a blast to watch. And I'm hoping that he can keep it up, down the stretch of the season. Who knows how long
Coach Masick called him? It was like, he's awkward. Like, in
he's
a good way.
A little gangly out there.
It makes him so tough to defend. Yeah, because
Exactly.
You can't put your typical guards on him. He's got the.
And then I think I called him Victor Wembanyama on accident.
We had Victor Wembanyama. We had Jokic references. It's great. I loved it. But then I was like, yeah, it's just one of those where it's like, if you're not quite paying attention and you hear Tate Olson's our Jokic, and then you go, wait, what? You're like, oh yeah. It's in context to how they structure their team in a similar role, and the same thing, with Wembanyama. So it's hopefully Pekarich, if you're listening, that's complimentary. So it's very fascinating. And again, Coach Masick was great in his breakdowns and talking about this. and trying to get it done. And I think too, he can be appreciative of the defensive effort, only allowing 77 points throughout the game, 38 points in the first half, 39 in the second half, get that consistency and kind of roll from there. So with that, let's move over to the Saturday game, which was not ugly sweater night, but the Beavers did lose a close one, 89-83 to the Minot State Beavers. So, Ian, things are not looking too good in the Beaver battle this year.
No, the statistics are not adding up. I don't have the official count in front of me, but we're going to have to make up.
Lost in football. I believe lost in volleyball. Women's soccer, I think they won that one.
They won in soccer. Yeah, so I think it was like 1-1-1 or something like that. Maybe soccer tied. I don't remember.
Either way, we got some work to do.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but there's still time. Softball and baseball can hopefully help carry the load at the back end of the season as well. But an unfortunate loss in this one. Again, John Pekarich, 26 points. Henry Shannon, 20 points. Like it's the same, a lot of the same names up at the top of the score sheet. But yeah, just in general, I mean, Minot State, they shot the lights out of the gym. I mean, 50% from beyond the arc, 53 actually in this game, and almost 60% from the field in this game. The Beavers did a pretty good job offensively, and I should say Bemidji State did a pretty good job offensively in the second half, trying to climb their way back into this game, scoring 50 points in the second frame, but losing that first half by 10 points and only scoring 33 just wasn't enough at the end of the game to be able to come back and really make the difference in this one. A big difference in this game. I mean, you lose by 6 points, and Minot State 23 points off turnovers. You had 15 points off turnovers, so it's not the biggest disparity, but all those little things can really add up in a close game like this when it really comes down to every possession at the end. And again, it's something we talked to Coach Masick about was turnovers, and that's something that they're still going to have to. I mean, it wasn't an egregious amount of turnovers. It was just 13 in this game compared to 10 for Minot State. But like you said, man, I mean, that's averaging 14 turnovers a game over the weekend. And again, they play a little bit of a faster offensive style than I think that we're used to.
Which can, again, when you push the pace, like in the NFL, when you pass more often, you're more likely to have interceptions as a team. Like exactly. that style of play lends itself to that. And Coach Masick talked about those turnovers needing to limit them. That's not necessarily an excuse, and I don't think Masick was making that either. But it is just kind of a way that you kind of leave yourself open up to. And if Bemidji State can clean that up, they're in a really good spot. Again, really did like the fight in the second half, a 50-point second half when you're down by 10 at halftime certainly helps things out. Again, Pekarich with another 26, played all 40 minutes in this game, which goes to show you again how much they need them. And again, how much they're kind of playing out of the stretch here a little bit without Olsen to kind of get things down and kind of anchor not just their offense, but just kind of anchor their team as a whole. So, one for Bemidji State, I'm sure one they'd like to have back. And there was another interesting wrinkle in talking with Coach Masick last week. Again, not to rehash the whole interview, because just go back and watch it. He was great. Don't hear me paraphrase it. Go back and listen to him say it. But to circle this to another point he made, he talks about the 3-pointers. If you look at Minot State, they shot 53% from 3. And we've mentioned on the show, sometimes a team just has a great shooting night. There's not much you can do about it. You tip your cap, you move on, and you play them hard the next time. And I think that's true, generally speaking. But Coach Masick also made a great point of that's true. And this is probably just the coach part of his brain that's like, there's always a way to motivate yourself. There's always a way to try and get your team to be motivated. So, all that stuff. But also, sometimes they shoot great because they get open looks. And, how do they get open looks? And trying, again, they're playing out of position. They have injuries. They're trying to kind of find that right balance. It's still early in the season, but they're trying to avoid, and again, I didn't watch every single shot to know exactly where that goes. But, sometimes a team gets hot, but also a team can get a lot of open looks, and finding that contest or finding that way to get your arm in the way, get your arm up, just make it a little bit more difficult, that closeout, whatever it is, certainly goes a long way. So I think overall, this is still a good Bemidji State team. I mean, we're nitpicking in a 6-point loss. So, in a 2-score loss, every mistake you could tie back to and be like, well, that had an impact on the game, and that had an impact on the game. And that's the nature of losing one score games. Again, to tie it back to the NFL, it's when you lose by one score in the NFL, every single possession that didn't end in a score, you can go back on and kind of say, oh, that was where the game is lost, or that was where the game is lost. So overall, Bemidji State still, if you look at the men's basketball standings in the NSIC, Bemidji State in the north is 3-4. And again, just a wide open kind of northern part. If you look in the south, Augustana and Southwest Minnesota State are both 6-1, St. Cloud State 5-2, and then everybody else below 500. In the north, Minnesota Duluth and Jamestown, of all teams, 5-2 to start their NSIC play. Minot State, MSU Moorhead, and Northern are all 4-3. Bemidji State 3-4. UMary 3-4. Minnesota Crookston 0-7. So while Bemidji State is 3-4 and under 500, sixth place in the North, I mean, like 2 wins flips them all the way up to third. So it's it's just a very fascinating way. And I think, and I'm not trying to speak for the coaches here, but I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth who's in the building. So I'm just kind of spitballing this off my own interpretation. Things are wide open. And if Bemidji State finds their stride, if they can get Olsen back healthy, if they can do whatever it is they need to do, they are right in the thick of things of getting a good spot come that first round of the conference tournament. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I mean, you look at just the games that they've played so far, 7 conference games. Of course, they're 3-4, which is maybe a little bit lower than what we would have hoped for. But I mean, how much does Tate Olsen's impact not,
Right. When we were planning those preseason expectations, we weren't planning on a senior being injured through a chunk.
And if you take away the Minnesota State Moorhead game, obviously where they lose by 30, I mean, they lost a game to Minnesota Duluth on the road, probably one of the tougher teams in the North this year, by 10 points. And then you come home, you play Moorhead, doesn't go well. You win against Crookston. You go on the road to Jamestown, who is currently 5-2 in the NSIC North. You lose a triple overtime game by 4 points. That's unfortunate. You win a couple of games
triple overtime game is the most coin flip outcomes you can have,
Of course. And then, you lose a 6-point game to Minot State where, you were right there. You were right there at the end. And if you can go down the backstretch and, they don't play for another couple weeks. Their next game is January 3rd against Minnesota Duluth. If you can find a way to win that one at home, against Duluth, that's going to be a big one. And then coming in, you got all the games against the South Division, and then you wrap up your season finishing up against the rest of the NSIC North. I mean, it's still right in front of them. I think they're playing well enough that, if they can realistically, like, we'll talk a little bit about expectations maybe in January when we, get to that. But like, I think that this team is still right where they want to be, especially when they're, figuring out how to play without Tate in there, and whether he'll be back soon or not, it's still up in the air. But at the end of the day, they're just going to keep plugging along and keep trying to get results with or without him. And I think that this team is still figuring out exactly what the best version of themselves can be. And it'll be nice now to have a little bit of a gap for a couple of weeks here in between, Christmas and the New Year's to, get a little break. You've had the first portion of the season, and now you can kind of, not to be a pun, but rebound and take a little break and hopefully gear up for the second half and the back stretch of the season.
Yeah, exactly. So, looking at this team again, we'll do kind of a lot of the preview stuff come January. So like Ian said, don't want to jump the gun here when looking at the squad. But yeah, that UMD game is going to be huge for them. They have one of the best teams in the conference in SMSU coming to town. Sioux Falls is right in that mix. Then you have St. Cloud. Then you have Mankato. Like, January is so tough for this team. And it'll, they have some time to get healthy. They have some time to work some things out. But we're going to learn a lot about this team in January. And come February, there's a chance to maybe pick some wins back up when you have Mary again. You have Crookston. There's Northern in there. You have another crack at Minot and things like that. But January is going to tell us a lot about the trajectory of this team. And it'll be fascinating to see as we get closer what that ends up looking like. So yeah, there's your first half, I guess, would be the best way to phrase it. I know in terms of games played, it's not quite there or whatever, the actual percentage is, but I always view the first half of the season as pre-Christmas, post-Christmas, I don't really look at it in terms of games played. So there's that. We're going to talk women's basketball in just a second, Ian. But first, want to give a big shout out to the sponsors of the Beaver Banter podcast and all the great work that Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation is putting together for the Beaver Banter podcast. Because again, we got a lot to talk about here on our final pre-Christmas show. We got women's basketball talk coming up. We also have a little bit of talk as well with just kind of a little Christmas surprise for you coming up. But again, want to shout out the great folks at Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. Once a Beaver, always a Beaver. Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation is here to keep that green and white pride going strong for its 50,000 graduates around the world. From scholarships that open doors for students to events that bring BSU alumni and friends together, you can get connected, give back, and leave a legacy at Bemidji State. Whether you're a proud BSU grad, a local supporter, or you just like cheering on the Beavers in any capacity, come be a part of the action at bsualumni.org. That's bsualumni.org. bsualumni.org, proud sponsors of the Beaver Banter podcast. All right, Ian. Women's basketball had a little bit tougher time over the weekend. They had a 93-77 loss to Mary on Thursday night, and then an 84-71 loss to the Beavers. Again, taking another L in the Beaver battle this year, Ian. Not a great outlook so far, although they'll get their rematches to try and split. But
Of course.
Just not a great start for the Beaver battle throughout all the sports so far this year. But going back to the women's basketball game on Friday night, or on Thursday night, excuse me. Gotta really get used to these Thursday, Saturday kind of efforts here. Bemidji State, just kind of a case where we talk about the men's team needing to win the glass, and they just weren't able to win against Mary. They lost the rebounding battle 36-20, lost the turnover battle 17-8. And on top of that, Mary just had a great shooting night. They shot about 58% from three, 56% from the field. And this is a really good Mary team. I know sometimes in kind of traditional Mary sense, you look at them and go, oh, Mary, they're probably not very good. No, they're 11-3, 5-1 in NSIC play. They're a nice squad, and Bemidji State just couldn't quite keep up. Cassandra Karen had 18 points. Evan Apinga had 16. Taryn Plash with 10. Beth Bolte chipped in 9 for Bemidji State. But, it's one where Mary can score, and they scored a lot. And for Bemidji State, there wasn't really a bad offensive quarter where it's like, we've talked about that before, avoiding that one quarter that can sometimes be a roadblock in winning the game. But Mary's offense just didn't let up. 21 points in the first quarter, 27 in the second, 25 in the third, 20 in the fourth. So just that's a tough one. Mary's a good team, and unfortunately just didn't quite have the firepower to keep up with them in that one.
Yeah. They actually won the turnover battle 17-8.
Sorry, I was looking at that backwards.
But yeah, the rebounding, getting almost doubled up on the rebounds is a tough one. And Mary just shot the lights out. I mean, 56% from the field, almost 60% again from three. And, you couldn't keep up with the shooting. And like we've talked about, sometimes it's just going to happen. It's just not your night. The ball's just not going in the hoop. And Mary is a very tough opponent to play as well. But yeah, I mean, Cassandra Karen, 18 points in just 19 minutes. So it looks like she had 4 personal fouls in the game. I'm wondering if most of those came maybe in the first half.
Got some foul trouble, and
getting some foul trouble. And, so that doesn't help either. But, it is what it is. And here we are, sitting Christmas time, CJ, and the Beavers women's basketball team is above 500. So I don't think I'm going to be complaining about the spot that they're at. But,
Exactly. They're 6-5 overall. 3-4 in conference play, and unfortunately had an 84-71 loss to Minot on Saturday. But yeah, like you said, at the end of the day, they're taking a winning record going into Christmas break, and they can build on that. Now, obviously, this one is more of a coin flip kind of in terms of just the initial, scoreboard watching of Minot State, Bemidji State. Minot 7-7 overall. They're 4-3 in NSIC play after the win. Apinga, though, had a nice game, 24 points on the night through all 40 minutes of gameplay. Cassandra Karen chipped in 16, Taryn Plash with 13. So, overall, we've kind of seen this Apinga, Karen, Plash in some kind of combo. Those three kind of have proven to be Bemidji State's top point getters so far this season, and which we were wondering who was going to kind of fill that void from Supernova being gone. So, overall, again, Bemidji State didn't have a quarter where they fell super short, but again, just that offensive firepower of Minot State being able to clean up. Rebounding was even, turnover battle was even, and in fact, Bemidji State shot better from 3 than Minot did, but Minot State just shot a little bit better when it came to just shots from the field. So overall, that's kind of how the ball game ended up being, and Bemidji State just couldn't quite get things to go their way, and now the Beavers end up taking a 6-5 record, 3-4 in conference play into that holiday break. And again, we talk about where things stand with the men's basketball team. Let's take a look in the women's basketball team as well.
It's pretty similar. I mean, you look at the standings and it's really similar, CJ. It's just at the top, there's the one outlier with Minnesota Duluth instead of at the bottom with Crookston. And then everybody else is 5-2, 4-3, 3-4, 3-4, 2-5, 2-5, 2-5. So the North is, again, very, very comparable to, the men's side, and where it's just a log jam so far. And that can be the case when you play against all of the other NSIC North teams. We'll maybe start to see that, spread apart as some of the NSIC South teams come into, the Northern Barns and vice versa. But it'll be very interesting to see. They've at the very least set themselves up in a good position to make a push in the back end of the season here. And, as we hit January and February, to make it back to that NSIC tournament.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we talk about this being a tough stretch. Your next game against Minnesota Duluth. You have Southwest Minnesota State, who's about 500 in conference play. You have Sioux Falls in the mix, who's had a pretty good year so far. St. Cloud State, you have a chance to get a victory against there. Minnesota State Mankato is also undefeated in conference play. So there's
Minnesota State Mankato, by the way. I was looking at this last week and I didn't bring it up, but they are insane. So second place in the conference in terms of team offense is UMary. They're averaging 75 points a game. Minnesota State is the number one offense in the conference. How many points a game do you think they average?
How many points did you say, James? Or
UMary is at 75.7 in second place.
Okay, well, based on that, it's got to be like way higher. My guess is they're going to be like at 89.
98.4. And I think it was over 100 last week when I checked, dude.
Oh.
They're nuts. I can't believe that.
Yeah. They're good.
For reference, Bemidji State, 10th in the conference team offense so far. Not bad, 69.7. It's actually kind of nice. That's like 30 behind where Minnesota State is at, dude.
It's
coming off of a national championship, by the way. And
2 years ago.
Somehow. It was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it was the year where Mankato men's won and women's won. And unfortunately,
they might be on their way back.
You don't, contrary to popular belief, you don't got to hand it to them. So
Bemidji State team defense actually better than Minnesota State, though. 68 points a game allowed for the Beavers. That's seventh best in the conference. Minnesota State at 68.2. How much of that is Minnesota State being up 100-30 at the end of the
and
third
defense
quarter,
just kind of like
exactly.
We'll bring in our backups. The other team's going to leave their first string. They're going to bring their first team in there. Whatever.
Yeah, but I saw that the margin of like second place again, Minnesota Duluth in the conference, 11.9 average margin of the game. Minnesota State 30.2. Maybe we just skip the women's basketball preview when we get to the Minnesota State.
That basically you gave the preview. We'll just clip that and play it again.
That's a pretty good bit. We could do that. We just ignore it. We don't even talk about the fact that they're going to play Minnesota State.
Yeah.
When we get to that weekend, we're just like, yeah, they got one game coming up this weekend against St. Cloud State University.
What if we just gaslight our audience into pretending that Mankato doesn't exist?
The Mankato game doesn't. It never happened.
The school doesn't exist. The town doesn't exist. It's not there. I don't know what you're talking.
I wonder if they'll fall for it now that we're saying this on the air. But we could try.
Again, we'll talk about what? I don't even know what town you're talking about.
What are we talking about?
What is even happening here? It's called gaslighting. I don't need it to be foolproof. I just need to keep pushing my head down and refusing to accept any other dialogue. So
Exactly.
that's good. We've got our plan.
Hey,
That's going to be our New
women's
Year's
basketball is in a
resolution
good
is to
spot
ignore
right now.
Mankato as much as possible. So
Yeah, exactly. They're in a good spot, man. They're right in the hunt. They're fourth right now. Tiebreakers be damned this early in the season. I have no idea, but they're in fourth on the page. So that's a good spot to be in heading into the Christmas break.
Exactly. They have a 3-game losing streak, but that's okay. Winning record. They're in a good spot. We've gotten some things to build off of. Now go forward and kind of continue to build and rest up over this holiday break here. So both again, Bemidji State men's and women's basketball back in action January 3rd against Duluth. That is kind of a one-off game. And by the way, January 1st is the hockey.
January 2nd. Yeah.
January 2nd is the men's hockey exhibition against the Gophers at the Sanford Center. And then women's hockey is back in action because, again, both the hockey teams are on break. The women's hockey team will be back in action on January 3rd and 4th when they go to Massachusetts to take on Merrimack. And then the 9th and 10th is kind of when the men's and women's hockey teams will be back kind of going on to their regularly scheduled programming as well. So, Ian, that about does it for our Bemidji State talk. We have a little bit of a surprise that we want to bring up in this part of the show. But first, Ian, let's shout out the good folks at Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation.
Do you want to be a part of the team behind the teams at Bemidji State? Join hundreds of dedicated fans when you donate to Beaver Athletics and help BSU pursue its next championship. Your gift can power your favorite program, establish a scholarship for a student athlete you get to meet, and so much more. Every dollar brings the Beavers closer to raising another trophy. You can add to the proud tradition of success at Bemidji State. So don't wait. Give today at bsualumni.org/Beavers. That's bsualumni.org/BEAVERS.
All right, Ian. So, what do we do now? We've ate up pretty much the entire Bemidji State portion that's happened. There's not really much to project to quite yet.
I think we go back to our roots, CJ.
I think so. Do you remember back in the days, Ian, of R&B Sports Talk, which for those who don't know, let's take a step back. Let's get a refresher course maybe for that new listener out there. If you're listening, a recent listener to the podcast, welcome. And here's a little bit of just kind of the lore of the Beaver Banter podcast. Is back when me and Ian were students at Bemidji State, we had to, fill up an air slot for a class we were taking. And we're like, heck, let's just do a sports show. And we did. It was called R&B Sports Talk. And Beaver Banter was actually just a segment on the show. It was a 2 hours. I think we had 2 hours on the air. 2 hours on the air. And we had the first segment, the first 15 minutes were just Beaver Banter. Lo and behold, it would grow into its own podcast. But we spent the rest of the show just talking about whatever kind of sports we wanted. We would do a lot of state sports. We do a lot of other things like that, just trying to kind of kill the time and trying to get our chops. We thought we had these great sports takes and we're ready to roll. And in fact, Ian, I think we did, because we'd have people that would stop. Again, we're patting ourselves on the back here. We'd have people stop us and be like, oh, hey, we listened to the show. And we're like, you actually listen to this? Yeah. Like, what's going on here? And we were like one of the very first kind of multi-platform shows back then, because not only would we have our radio show, but we would also stream it on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And we would clip parts of the show and put it on YouTube. Just like we were doing it before it was cool we were doing it before it was cool post-COVID, before that kind of exploded. We were right there. We weren't wrong. We were just early in the game. And in fact, our top video, and I still remember this to this day, it blew up.
It was the Kirk Cousins video.
It was Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, it was.
We were talking about, should the Vikings sign Kirk Cousins? And that was the video that had 1,000 views on YouTube and kind of blew up a little bit. And I remember because we had a bunch of comments that are very standard YouTube comments of incoherent rambling in all caps. But it was great. It was fun, and we had fun. And anyways, the whole last hour of our show was called Football Hour, because It could have been the middle of March. We were just talking ball.
We were talking draft. We did draft breakdowns. We did
a ton of draft breakdowns, man.
That's where one of my best ever takes has come from. Predicting Josh Allen to be maybe not this level of NFL MVP, but I did want him on the Chargers pretty bad.
I will give you credit. You were very right on that one. I was very wrong on Josh Allen. So, that's okay. So thank you for getting to the lore, CJ. Thank you for making that very quick. Let's talk a little ball, Ian. We always joke about the Chargers, and I don't want this to take up the entire second half of the podcast because I know you will. We'll get to some other sports stuff here and there, but let's kind of like whip around here a little bit. You always tease the Chargers, or at least make a reference to them at some point. They get a nice little win over the Cowboys, and they're banged up, and I don't know who's playing running back. I don't know how many healthy offensive linemen they are. I think, Ian, you are next on the depth chart if one more offensive lineman goes down, and yet Harbaugh keeps those boys moving.
The Jim Harbaugh experience, I guess I didn't know what I was in for when they signed him up. I mean, this is what it is, though. Like you said, CJ, this team is like ravaged with injuries. Like from the get-go in July, Rashawn Slater, all-pro left tackle, tears his patella tendon, and it's like, all right, well, here we go. Joe Alt has only played in like 4.9 games. Somehow a Pro Bowler, by the way. I don't know. I feel a little shame for that one, but I'll take it. They've had like 9 different starting offensive line combinations. Their starting quarterback is 9. 9. But they just they're winning. Like they're 11-4. They just clinched a playoff spot because the Colts lost last night.
And I believe, do they control their own destiny for the 1?
No, not for the 1. They would need the Patriots to lose 1 game. And they play the Jets and the Dolphins to finish the season. So it's not looking likely, but they do control their destiny to win their first AFC West title in 17 years, I think. It's 2009 was the last time they won an AFC West title, which is very humbling because I remember that like it was yesterday. And then you think back and you're like, oh, wow, it's been 2009. I would have thought it was like 2015 or something at least.
Right.
Like, not that was that short ago, but
they went right from the Manning Broncos to the Mahomes Chiefs, you know.
That's what it's been, dude. It's brutal, you know. And then you look around the whole rest of the AFC, and it was the Manning Colts, and it was the Brady Patriots, and now it's the Allen Bills and the Lamar Ravens. So it's been tough, but Jim Harbaugh and this team, this defense is balling. I cry myself to sleep every night imagining that Jesse Minter won't be the defensive coordinator for this team next year, because that is going to change a lot. He's been phenomenal. You know, you guys have Brian Flores over there, and Minter is right up there in the conversation with him, I think, for one of the best defensive minds in all of football. Like you think about this defense, especially. They have a couple of big names. Khalil Mack is 34. You know, Derwin James he's still in his prime, but he's getting older. But then outside of that, it's like, you know, they got this guy Tuli Tuipulotu who's got, you know, he's on pace for 15 sacks right now. He's 23 years old. Tarheeb still Cam Hart. Like, we finally have a GM. We talk about this off the air, CJ. Our GMs are like the polar opposites. If we could combine them into one mega GM, they would be the greatest of all time, because Joe Ortiz for the Chargers knows how to draft lights out. And Kwesi is pretty good. I don't know how the free agency class did this
he's
year
been much maligned.
But
He hasn't been great, but he hasn't been as bad as I think his haters will say. But yes, He certainly, they just don't pick. They don't have a ton of draft picks. He's made like 5 draft picks, so if you fail on 2 of them, and that first draft class he absolutely whiffed on, and that's first impressions are key. But yeah, exactly. Sorry, continue.
No. Draft classes. The one thing that you can do to be a better team in the NFL is like the easiest way to do it is just draft well. And that's what the Chargers have done for the last 2 years. They knocked their draft classes out of the park. I mean, I think they have like probably 10 players, if not more, from their last 2 draft classes that are making like sizable impacts on the team, which, you know, in the Tom Telesco era of the Chargers was unheard of. And now they've got, you know, they beat the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. Not that the Chiefs are any good this year, but they had 4 rookies on offense that were probably some of the biggest players in the game. You know, just insane to have this level of production out of rookies. And last year it was defensive rookies and Joe Alt, and it's unbelievable. What a time to be a Chargers fan. I think this is the first time they've gone back to back in the playoffs since that 08-09 season. So it's the vibes are high. Of course, we still have to win a playoff game. That's the next step. And hopefully we don't have some sort of massive implosion, whether it's a 27-point blown lead or our quarterback that's only thrown 3 interceptions all season, throwing 4 in a single game in the playoffs. Like, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's been fun. It's been fun, and I'm enjoying the ride.
The good news is if Justin Herbert gets hurt, you can just go sign Phil Rivers,
Right. Well, and he is hurt. Like, Herbert, he's played with a broken hand right now.
He got a broken hand, got surgery on it, put a glove on it, then tried to stiff arm a dude with that same hand.
Played in a game 6 days later, and then stiff armed, a Blankenship or whatever it was. Like, he's Jim Harbaugh is a corny guy. I'm sure that everybody knows that, but he gave his update on Justin Herbert's physical status after the game. He said, he's still a beast. Okay.
He gives off very old dad energy.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, and to the Rivers question, and this is more of a comment, really. This doesn't need a big breakdown, but man, Phillip Rivers putting up a nice game only to be let down by the people around him. Where have I seen that before?
First of all, let me talk about Phillip Rivers for 2 minutes. Never thinking I'd get to see him play a football game again, and then watching these last 2 games. I mean, the game against Seattle was a little ugly. He wasn't throwing it with very much depth at all. Like, it looked a little wobbly, but Seattle's got a great defense, and asking a 44-year-old quarterback who's been retired for 5 seasons to come in and start against them should be punishable by law for the Colts organization. But you know what? He hung with him. He drove down the field, kicked a field goal to lead with like under a minute left, and Seattle still ended up winning the game. And I'm like, wow, classic.
And then,
Phillip
by the
Rivers.
way, had to try and come back and threw an interception to end the game.
Interception. It's like, dude, I love Phillip Rivers, but that was so on brand for him. And then, I mean, just getting to watch him sling it last night. Like, the defense kind of stunk, and of course he threw the pick 6, but they were already down like 17 at that point.
It's again a classic. Like, Rivers has got to heave, and just one of those is gonna
exactly like. But hey, he threw for like 270 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Did you see ESPN had that alternate broadcast where Luke Kuechly was a part of it? And like, as the play was going on, Kuechly was like diagnosing the coverage, and he was like, they're going to get an interception on this play. Like, they are going to, like, he's going to pop out.
Kuechly's nuts, man.
Luke Kuechly, man.
Gone too soon.
Gone too soon, man. Luke Kuechly is he's him. That's just a big dude in an era of linebacker that we don't see anymore. And that's the thing about Phil Rivers that's very fascinating. This ties into a Vikings conversation and just a broader NFL conversation. They're like, it's unheard of that a 44-year-old comes off the couch and does this, but it shows how bad quarterback play is across the NFL, that Phillip Rivers is pretty much your only option. There was Brett Rippon and Riley Leonard and all this other stuff. And it was like, nobody has any faith in anybody to do anything. And you could talk about that's a development problem. That's a college football problem. There's a whole bunch of things. We could just have had a glorious era of Brady, Manning, Rivers, Roethlisberger, Rodgers, Favre. Like, take your list down the line. Even the quote unquote mid-tier guys, your Tony Romos or your Matt Hasselbecks or your whatever. Like,
Eli Mannings.
Yes. You're all in there that make that run of quarterbacks where it's like they're just dudes who knew how to read defenses and make throws and do all this, and you just don't see that anymore. It's so fun because that was the joy of watching Peyton Manning, is he would get to the line and you could see him like picking apart things, and Rodgers will still do it too. Like, a few years ago they were playing the Vikings, and Rodgers, when he was still with the Packers, like looked at Harrison Smith because Roger had seen so many Mike Zimmer defenses at that point. It was like, come on, man. Come on. I know you're supposed to come up on this play. Like, I've seen you do it a million times on tape. Come on. Like, you don't need to be shy. And that's the thing of, like, Rivers can sit there, get at the line, diagnose what's happening, and check out of a play, redo a play like you're audibling in Madden. And you just don't see quarterbacks able to, 1, diagnose it properly, 2, get it to where it needs to be. And just, it's a lot of things. And to pair it to the Vikings, like, JJ McCarthy's been a mess, and it's not his fault 100%. And I'm sure there's people out there that are all in on McCarthy. And look, he's shown enough to be excited. And I think McCarthy has the brain. I think he has the intangibles, and I think he has the raw athletic ability. But at some point, his biggest hindrance has just been he can't stay healthy. The Vikings did it right. They drafted a raw, toolsy quarterback and had Sam Darnold there to play the whole rookie year. But JJ McCarthy got hurt. And so all that time where he could have fixed the mechanics that the Vikings knew were issues, that was gone. And the Vikings were so dedicated to the timeline of rookie quarterback contract, we can't pay a veteran to come in just like we did with Kirk. And it kind of made them not see the forest through the trees. And now you have a quarterback that just hasn't played. And even when he got in this year, has been hurt and missed half the time. And by the way, played 9 games so far. So just to throw that one in there for old number 9. Has had some great moments when you look at games against the moments against the Bears and the Lions, games against the Cowboys and the Commanders. But when you look at those 2 great games, they're against 2 of the worst defenses in the NFL. And it's not like he was lighting them up for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was efficient. He made some good throws. He's shown you things, but he is by no certainty yep, Vikings got their guy. There's no controversy here. I know people have made the Joe Burrow trade talks, which I'll believe that's never going to happen in a million years. But
Vikings fans and jumping from superstar quarterback to superstar quarterback. Eventually, one of them will end up in our state.
When they're 45 and Aaron Rodgers banging on the door to come in. But man, I remember last year, Vikings fans after the playoff game, and I admit I was a little emotional too after that playoff loss where it's like, fine, get him out of here. I don't care. But after the week settled, I was like, Darnold won 14 games, and I wouldn't hate if he came back on a franchise tag. And everyone's like, no, you can't do that. I saw highlights of JJ McCarthy at Michigan. He's going to be great right away. And I think what the Vikings learned is they probably should have franchise tagged Sam Darnold and just had McCarthy work on his fundamentals all year. But he's not healthy. He can't stay healthy. And that's the point. He's not going to play Christmas Day. So Max Brosmer found out he had to get called into work on Christmas, which bummer. But it just kind of goes to show you need to play. And McCarthy just hasn't played. He doesn't have the reps and he can't get any. And unfortunately for this team, you have Justin Jefferson in his prime. You have Darisaw in his prime. You have this defense was great this year. They're going to win 7, maybe 8. I mean, I don't think they will, but they could end up with a winning record despite having 32 of 32 quarterback play this year, which is a shame because if Sam Darnold came in and played 15th best quarterback, they're winning 10 games. If he played like he did this year, they're right in the thick of an NFC North. They botched it, and I just don't see how you could ignore all that and go, well, McCarthy will be fine. He'll work on it in the offseason. They're going to need to bring in a veteran, and who that veteran is or how good he is, it needs to be somebody who's going to legitimately compete with him for the starting job, like a Daniel Jones to Anthony Richardson kind of situation.
Anthony Richardson, I'm happy you brought that up. There's a difference between JJ and Anthony Richardson, and it's the fact that JJ played more games in college than Richardson did, but
didn't really throw the same. They might have thrown the same amount.
Well, that's true. I mean, Michigan with Harbaugh there, that's an obvious tie between our two teams is the fact that he just didn't have to throw that many reps and at the NFL level, especially, I think that the biggest thing that hurt Richardson is always his injury in his rookie year, because I'm firmly on the belief that the rookie year for Anthony Richardson was the year that the Colts were going to be patient with him and they were going to let him take his lumps and they were going to let him be a youngster and be a raw athletic talent and let him try to develop. And then year 2 comes and he hasn't had a chance to develop at all because he's been out with his injury. And now they're like, well, man, can we really afford to just keep kicking the can down the road with Richardson and taking his lumps? And so that's why they bench him and go to Joe Flacco, and it's a disaster. And I'm worried for the Vikings that the same thing is going to happen with McCarthy, that he's missed so much time over his first 2 seasons that he's not going to get all of these. And now all of a sudden, what happens when you're halfway through next season? If, like you said, CJ, if they don't sign a veteran to come in and help out with something, they're going to be halfway through next season. McCarthy gets hurt again, and now you've sank 3 years into the JJ McCarthy product. And what do you have to show for it? And that's the real concern offensively for me. And I mean, not to compare the actual game that they play in the NFL to fantasy football, but like Justin Jefferson's been horrible this year statistically because, I mean,
his quarterback play's been awful.
God
I know
bless
people are going to
Max
say,
Rosmer, but like
people are going to say, oh, he had some drops and Addison had some drops. And yeah, they all had drops last year. You know what the difference was? They got the ball so often you didn't really notice. Like
exactly.
That's what they're not used to the ball actually being there. People go, oh, well, it was right on the hands. Yeah, McCarthy threw fastballs 10 yards away. And if they're not right on the money, they're going to bounce off your hands and go into the arms of somebody. And yeah, so you're right. It's one of those where it's like Jefferson has not been great because his quarterback hasn't been great.
Well, and here's the thing too with the Darnold situation. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? Like the Vikings kind of dealt with this already. We talked about it.
They did not want to go
Our biggest clip in R&V Sports Talk history is them talking about Kirk Cousins. Like Case Keenum had such a great year. But were you really going to go back to Case Keenum? And obviously Keenum and Darnold, much different prospects coming out. Darnold had much more talent than Keenum did, just in terms of arm talent.
Keenum didn't do anything after. He went to Denver, washed out, went to Washington, washed out. Darnold at least double-digit win team. They're going to make the playoffs.
What happens if you do that? What happens if we
right. If Darnold, what happens if Darnold throws an interception? The whole crowd's going, J. And Darnold has to deal with that all year. And the Vikings are going to be compelled if they start slow to bet. Yes, it was not a perfect situation either. Yep. But now they have no choice. Like you said, they can't just waste another year of this team like the Colts did. And now ultimately Daniel Jones got hurt. And now that's just, you feel for the Colts, man. They were 8-2. Now they're going to miss the playoffs and now not have 2 first-round picks for the next 2 years.
The Sauce trade is going to be one of the worst trades. Like you're going to look back in 5 years and think that's one of the worst trades of the 20.
Sauce is a nice player, but man, not worth 2 first-round picks.
Not worth 2 first-round picks, and just the way that it played out is unfortunate.
Immediately after.
Maybe the process itself wasn't that terrible, but the way that it played out being. Now we didn't even make the playoffs. Sauce is injured and oh my gosh. Yeah.
But the biggest thing with McCarthy is he's just hurt. And so whether you like him, whether you don't like him, you don't have that much tape. This whole year, I had somebody try and tell me once this year was all for the Vikings about just seeing what they had in McCarthy. It was like, no, it was not. They spent a lot of money this offseason thinking they could win, and McCarthy could just play 15 to 20th best quarterback, and kind of like Bo Nix last year, they just would carry him along for the ride, and Bo Nix this year, depending on who you ask. But
25th best quarterback in the NFL, Bo Nix, is that who you're referring to?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
So the point is McCarthy hasn't been on the field. And if you like him or you don't like him, you just don't have anything to read off of. And I had somebody tell me, oh, this is a wasted season. No, it is not. They expected to compete this year. It turned into okay, you just got to see what you have in McCarthy. But even then, he kept getting hurt. He has not played 3 games in a row in his NFL career. You can't do that. He played.
I suppose, all of last year. But
he missed all of last year, and then he played the first week and a half, or he played the first 2 weeks. Got hurt, was out till the Detroit game. Okay, maybe he played 4 in a row. Maybe because he played Detroit, Baltimore, Chicago, got hurt against Green Bay. Okay, so he played 4 in a row. But outside of those 4-game stretch, which, by the way, outside of looking okay against Detroit, looked awful against the Bears, looked like he didn't know how to play quarterback against the Packers. You just can't. Struggled against the Ravens. There's just not a ton of good tape. And if you go, oh, well, he had a good game against the Commanders or the Cowboys. You mean the 2 teams everybody's laughed at for being bad this year? This isn't the NFC South where it's Bryce Young's can be bad, but he can also be good, and they're going to win 9 games, and they're going to somehow win the division. Not in a division with the Packers that are always relevant, with the Bears with Ben Johnson are going to be on the up and up, and with the Lions who are too talented to go away, and Goff is too good of a quarterback just to be perpetually bad. You are not just going to be able to squeak your way to 9 wins and be in a playoff race. You are going to need to get a team that can be in a dogfight, and that's where the Vikings are in a weird spot. They can't draft a quarterback. They're not going to be high enough, and there's no quarterback that's high enough in this draft class. There is a case to be made, and this is the chaotic theory, where if you're ownership, you say, no, McCarthy's your guy. You get to bring Max Brosmer as the backup and maybe bring back Carson Wentz, but JJ McCarthy's your guy. And if it tanks, then ownership, and if McCarthy's bad, then the Vikings are going to get a high draft pick. They're going to clean house, and then a new guy is going to come in and pick a new quarterback. And that could be the chaotic theory that I hope doesn't happen, because I really do like Kevin O'Connell. And I don't love everything Kwesi's done, but I'm not certainly a Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa hater, or at least somebody who's skeptical of him. I think overall he's done good bringing in free agents. I think they kind of did the right things. I think generally speaking, they've been okay. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird situation. And of course, the Vikings are back into QB purgatory once again. Outside of the decade of Fran Tarkenton, the couple years of Dante Culpepper being good before the knee injury.
This is why I always got so frustrated when people would hate on Kirk. Not that Kirk was ever like the best thing in the league, or even maybe like at his peak, what was he? Maybe like the 9th best QB at any given time. Like at his peak,
he could go anywhere from the 9th to 18th best, depending on.
Right. Yeah. But dude, like,
but that's a lot of quarterbacks that aren't Mahomes, Brady, Allen. Yeah.
It's so frustrating. And I think that, like you brought up earlier, quarterbacks, I think that the reason we have not as many quarterbacks, like you said, Manning and Rivers being able to go up and command the line is like an experience thing. We had such an era of like those quarterbacks were around for so long. It was experience. Like when the Chargers transitioned from Phillip Rivers into Justin Herbert, like now the offensive coordinator and the original play call is so much more important. And it's so much more important to have a good center. Phil didn't have a good center at the end of his career, and it didn't matter because he was calling out the protections. He's calling out all this stuff, and it doesn't matter. Herbert is too young and he's starting to get to that point now where you can see him start to command the offensive line a little bit more. And they unfortunately have mashed potatoes for brains this season, so they follow commands not
what do you
too
mean? You
well.
got your center situation taken care of. You have Bozeman.
No, we don't speak his name.
The guy who changed Herbert's protection at the last second. You can hear him on camera. This, no! And then the ball gets snapped, and then the play immediately blows up because he set the protection wrong.
Yep. The only player on the offensive line right now that I need back, and obviously this is tackles withstanding that are injured, is Zion Johnson at left guard. Like, he hasn't looked great this year because of the fact that he's surrounded by donuts. But I genuinely think he has just progressed from his rookie season, where he was extremely disappointing for a first-round pick, and now he's becoming a pretty solid left guard. And if he got to play next to Joe Alter or Zion Johnson, Joe Alter, Rashawn Slater, he would look a lot better. Everybody else on the offensive line, like, that's the one thing they need to overhaul. They need to do a full Bears this year and just go free agent heavy.
Vikings. They got two. And this is to the Kwesi part of it. Like, Donovan Jackson's a really good pick at left guard. They nailed that. Yeah. Will Fries is overpaid, but I think overall is fine. Like, you knew you were overpaying for him. Like, it's like you go into the car lot, you know you're overpaying for the car, but you really needed a new car, so you don't care. Like, you just needed it. So what does it matter? And then Ryan Kelly has been the only thing. You got like 4 concussions this year. My dude, just retire. It's done. Yeah. Like, you don't. There are like 6 documented concussions in your career. It's just be done, man. Like, it's okay. Like, it's not your fault. Yeah, they overhauled that unit, and the Vikings, McCarthy's taken some sacks because he holds on to the ball too long, and O'Connell's offense wants you to hold on to the ball too long. But overall, like, the Vikings really did they invested in that line. O'Neill's a 2nd-round pick. Darrisaw's a 1st-round pick. Donovan Jackson's a 1st-round pick, and Will Fries is a big free agent, and the Vikings are going to have to try and find a center. But yeah, like, that, it's huge. So anyway, all of this, as we kind of wrap up here, our final thoughts on the NFL. Just tell me, Chargers withstanding, I'm not going to put you in that position. You're not allowed to pick the Chargers. Give me your Super Bowl.
Like matchup?
Who is in it?
I think I have to be safe. I have to go with the Buffalo Bills. We say this phrase a lot on this show. The AFC is wide open. And for Josh Allen, if not now, when? Right. Mahomes is not in it. Joe Burrow, I don't even want to put Joe Burrow's name in this because he's missed the playoffs more than he's made it in his career. But Joe Burrow's not in it. Lamar probably won't be in it. Like, the Patriots are inexperienced. The Broncos have Bo Nix at quarterback. And if they do end up getting home field advantage, like they have a great home field advantage, the Jags look like the best team in the AFC right now, but they're the Jags. And just like the Chargers, I don't trust them to actually do it when it comes time to do it.
Yeah, they're not down 27-0 or something like that. So
yeah, exactly. So I think I just have to go with the Bills as my AFC pick right now. Even if they're doing it on the road, I think that that's a team with Josh Allen that can do that. Their defense is a little suspect. And then honestly, I'm going to pick the other 6 seed, I think, in the NFC right now. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think the Rams are probably my favorite coming out of that. And again, it's the Seahawks might have the number 1 seed, but I just can't trust Sam Darnold until I see him do it. And that's not necessarily me trying to hate on him. I do like the Seahawks this year. They're a pretty damn good team, but there is just a difference between regular season and postseason football. And Sam Darnold, by the way, is in a position where he could pull the exact same stunt as last year. That Rams or that 49ers Seahawks game might get flexed to Sunday night, week 18. He might blow that game and blow the 1 seed. And then he might lose in the first round of the playoffs with the Seahawks. But that would be a totally different game because he'd be playing like not the Rams and he'd be playing like the Panthers. So we'll see about that. But
so
what about you, CJ? What's your?
They're not high.
The Panthers are not. They're not very high on my. As feisty as they are, and as much as I do want to see them win the NFC South, they're not too high on my hierarchy.
No, I think the AFC is wild, man, because you have like the Patriots who are like Drake May is. I think Drake May is going to be up there in that tier of quarterbacks that ends up getting kind of. I'm not going to say he's like. There's Josh Allen, who's I think the best quarterback in the league right now. I think everybody can agree that. Like you have your Allen, Mahomes, and then whatever quarterbacks you want to include in there. But those guys are like top 2. And then you can have that second tier. And I think Drake May quickly, I'm not saying he's there quite yet, but I think he's going to be there pretty quickly. You can see the Vikings were in love with Drake May in the draft process. They were just never going to be close to get him. And if you're the Patriots, why would you ever, if you had a chance to draft a generational quarterback prospect, why would you trade that away for quote unquote more picks? Go get the quarterback. So anyway, yeah, I think overall, I don't know who to trust because the Bills are fun, but they're flawed. And the Patriots, Vrabel is a great coach, but
their defense is not good either.
Their defense is not good. And Drake May just hasn't been in the playoffs yet. Now they could have home field advantage, but still the Broncos, I do not trust Bo Nix. Do not trust it as far as he can throw, which is about 10 yards. So I got to go Buffalo just because Josh Allen is the only thing I know in that entire mess. I do not think I think the Tomlin Steelers are the most obvious wild card round loss of all time. Or if they squeak by in the wild card round, they get blasted by their divisional round opponent having to go on the road. The NFC is so compelling because the Rams are kind of the team that's best set up to succeed. Chicago gives me 2022 Vikings vibes, although they are getting better. I think, which sucks to say. I don't trust the Packers. I think overall, I think it's so tough because I want to say the 49ers get back to the Super Bowl because I think they've just done it before. I think Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan are the top 2 coaches in the NFL, bar none. Like they're in a league of their own. And I think Kyle Shanahan finds a way just to scheme his team to wins, to scheme his team into that position. I think we have a Bills and 49ers Super Bowl. And I think this is the year Allen gets it done. I think we're both agreement on that. I think this is the year, everybody, Peyton Manning couldn't get it done. He was a playoff choker. He couldn't do it. And then he did. And I think that's going to be the case with Josh Allen this year.
Yeah, I have to agree. If I had to pick between those 2 teams, I'm picking the Rams, though. I as much as I would cheer for Josh Allen and my little Pookie Bear, Josh, I just don't think I could pick them in that matchup. That's a nightmare matchup for Buffalo, but we'll see. Like you said, CJ, the AFC is fun but flawed, and the NFC is who do you trust? Because even like you said, the Niners, they have flaws like the Rams.
It's a lot of B-plus teams all just mashing each other, and the Panthers.
And that's what's going to make the playoffs so fun, I think. And no Kansas City is just going to make it even better.
Exactly. So, all right, that's Beaver Banter Podcast. Merry Christmas, everyone. We'll see you next time.